Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of American Half-Ass. On today's episode, we are attempting to rescue my father and his father's old 72 Chevrolet pickup truck from sinking to China. What do I mean by that? Well, the old truck had been parked here in the field. It had been moved around a little bit several times since something happened with the engine. What exactly happened with the engine, I'm not exactly sure, but Dad always said that it was blown up. Of course, I seem to recall hearing the engine run since it was supposedly blown up, so I don't recall hearing any knocks or anything in it. Well, we wound up, me and some of my friends, Niles particularly, attempting to remove the blown up engine and put a 305 in it out of an Impala. Well, that turned out not to be a good enough option. What do I mean by that? Well, when we attempted to do that, we noticed that the old truck, which was 3 on the tree, had transmission mounts at the front of the transmission, whereas an automatic had a cross member at the very back of the transmission. Consequently, we couldn't get it to line up. It wouldn't drop in right. And since then, I'd got to thinking, everybody's talking about numbers matching and survivors and stuff like that. Well, I have the original engine and transmission for this truck. So I had thought, that I would just try to get them put back together and get the truck original again. We hadn't cut anything out or anything. We just pulled one engine out and set another one in. The original engine is here in the garage, but I haven't pulled it apart yet to see what was going on because I'm not ready to put it in the truck yet. And I've done that several times where I've rebuilt an engine and then it'd been several years before I was able to put it in a vehicle. So, the first fire up, you got to pull the distributor again and prime it and all that stuff so you don't tear it up. So, this old truck is a 1972 Chevrolet C10. It belonged to my grandpa, Dad's dad, Ernest McKinley, and it had been driven by him for years. I actually have a picture somewhere of him standing in front of this truck. As you can see, there were some trees growing up, and that's what prompted me to want to get this old truck out of the damn trees. So, this old truck used to belong to my grandpa. I'm pretty sure my grandpa bought it new. And I mean, he had it for years and years and years. And one of my earliest memories is we wound up piling into this orange Celica that Mom had, me, Mom, and Dad, driving it down to Florida. I remember having, of course that was before they mandated that kids had booster seats. So I remember being piled up next to, a bunch of luggage and stuff that was, I was sitting on the passenger side in the back seat of a Toyota Celica. 70s model, so a real small car, and had a bunch of luggage packed in on the driver's side, and then I'm sure the back end of it was full too. So we wound up driving all the way down to Florida where my grandpa lived and hanging out there, and I remember going with Dad and Grandpa in this old truck to go get a tow bar to put on the front of the Celica and get lumber to put in the back because, you know, as you can see, it's got the camper shell on it, which Grandpa had on there. And I don't know if you can tell, but there is a plywood bed going from about the middle of the wheel wells to the front of the cab that we'd got lumber for and built so that I had a place to ride and so that Mom had a place to sleep in the truck. So I had tried to get this thing pulled out of here a few weeks ago, and when I hooked onto it and tried dragging it with Dad's black truck, I bent the crap out of that cross member there. So I had since wrapped a chain around that cross member and attempted to pull it with it, but I couldn't get the truck to budge. And as I was looking around it, I discovered why. The tire's not flat, it's sank. So I'd parked it on some soft ground without realizing it. And if you're familiar with these year Chevrolet trucks, they've got what they call a torque arm suspension on them. Or not a torque arm suspension, a truck arm suspension. So there are arms that go from farther up on the frame back underneath the axle. And as you can see, maybe, if it's not too dark under there, that actually comes in contact with the ground. So it doesn't want to move. Despite having a four-wheel drive pickup truck in low range and jerking on it a few times, it didn't budge. So what I'm going to try and do today is see if I can use one of those high lift jacks that all the off-road guys like to use to jack up the back of the truck enough to be able to pull it out of the hole and try to get it up on top of the hill there a little bit so that we can get her in a position where we're better able to start working on it. So that's what we're going to be trying to do here. Wish us luck. the wonders of messing around with junk. Here I've been sitting here fighting for, I don't know, an hour or two, maybe even longer, trying to get this truck moved, trying to pull it forward, and I just discovered why it ain't moving. Came over here to see about hooking on to the other side, and you know, there's typical brush you get when you're not mowing something, but then there's this that ain't budging, and this whole mess of stuff that ain't budging. Well, what is it? Turns out, well, it appears to be an engine block, or a barrel or something. I think it's a barrel. Yeah, that looks like a barrel. Well, I thought that was further back in the trees. But apparently not. Apparently it's right here. And here I've been dragging the truck right up into it. So I gotta think of something else to do. I don't know if maybe I can try jacking the front of the truck up and seeing if I can dogleg it sideways to get it away from that thing, and maybe pull it up this way. But I got my mom's dad's truck in the way. And Grandpa Tip used to use this for his blacktop business. He had Latonia blacktop. Can't really tell there, but you can see the phone number. But over on this side, you can see Latonia blacktop. Got his home number up there at the top, got the address of the shop, and of course you can't see the business number down here on the bottom. But he had used this truck to push snow and spread salt. So he'd had a salt spreader on the back of it, had salt in the back of it, and well, anybody that lives up here in this area knows exactly what salt does to metal. It helps rust it out. So back of that old truck was so rusted out that when a Dodge Caravan slid off the road and into the back of it on some ice, it just totally shot it. And the Caravan hit so hard that it broke the dowel pin that locates this side of the rear axle. So haven't been fooling with this truck because I've been trying to get other stuff that I thought was closer but has more issues, but whatever. I mean, obviously this thing's got a lot of issues, especially when you realize that the window regulator's messed up, so the window won't stay up, and the floor's rotted out. So that's going to be a major project, and I'm almost thinking that that project, this might just turn into a parts vehicle. As much as I'd like to see both of my grandpa's trucks back on the road, I think this one might be a lost cause. This one, of course, I think it's still salvageable. I just got to get it up out of the weeds and get to fooling with it. So I'm hoping I can get this thing moved and get it operational, but who knows. So I'm going to try and see if I can get this thing drug a little bit differently, get it moved out of my way here. So I've got one tire that's holding air on that old truck. So that's part of the reason why it's so difficult to move it. So, I don't know. Might try easing off the angle of the steering a little bit, because it looks like it'll clear the Jeep now. Well, both Jeeps. I mean, it's just barely going to clear it, but I think it'll clear it. So the steering on it wasn't as bad as what I thought it was, but it's still not the best in the world. So maybe if we ease up on the steering angle a little bit, we can drive it up the hill some more. I want to get it up on top of the hill so that I can mess with it a little bit. Although, if I put another chain on and get the black truck up onto the hill, maybe even up into the gravel, I'll have better luck. First off, let's ease back on the steering a little bit and see what happens. That extra chain should be enough to get me up the driveway. I got a little bit of traction. Okay, as you can see, with 4 chains hooked to it, where I could get the truck up there in the good part of the gravel driveway, I was able to drag this thing on up the hill. So let's take a look at it. Well, got the exhaust hanging down. Obviously that bumper's screwed up even worse now than when I started. So it's going to have to be replaced. That cross member there is going to have to be replaced. And the jerking around that I did wound up screwing up that motor mount. That manifold's still good, but when we had gotten the old engine out of it, we broke the manifold on this side. So we're gonna have to find new manifolds for it. Like I said, this is a 305 that come out of an 85 Impala. It's got a 700 R4 behind it. And the car ran good. My sister wound up trying to pull a Dukes of Hazzard and wrecked it once, but we managed to bend everything back out of the way. It wound up shoving the core support back a little bit. The fan and radiator shroud come together. But we got the radiator or the fan shroud out of the way and managed to get it to run again. Then somebody pulled out in front of her up in Florence, and well, she really boogered up the car when she hit them. Which I'd have thought that big old 85 Impala would have went right through whatever it was. But as you can see there, we got a lot of body damage there. Well, not necessarily body damage, but inner fender damage. I guess you could call that body. Over here, it's not too bad, but I mean, you can tell it's rusted out quite a bit. The hood's rusted out, you know, pretty good there. But like, you know, the main structure of the hood's all right. I don't know if you could get just parts of the hood or what. You know, the outside of it's pretty good. It's pretty much just that lip. I mean, I say pretty good, but I mean, obviously it's got a bunch of surface rust on it. And, you know, how much of a truck has to remain before you can say it's original? You know, the bottom of the fenders are pretty shot. The both front and back rocker panels are gone, cab corners are gone, which that's typical on these old trucks anyway. The outside of the bedside, I mean, it's not too terribly bad. Got a little dent in it. I may hit it with a mower at one point. The tailgate's kind of okay, it seems like. That rear bumper's, you know, mangled, rusted. Driver's side, it's pretty much the same story. Haven't got a chance to get underneath the truck to see how the frame is. Yeah, got some parts where we're seeing daylight through the floor there. But the funny part about it is the floor on this truck doesn't look like it's in as bad a shape as the floor on my 66. I got that one nasty spot there in the 66 that needs fixed. Yeah, I don't know if Grandpa put those seats in or if those seats were in there when he bought it. But I may have just twisted the truck up a little bit having that door open while I was doing all that pulling. I hope not. The camper shell yeah, plexiglass or whatever it is messed up. The aluminum cap itself doesn't look too bad, so I wonder if you can find that stuff and replace it. The old rods for closing and latching the thing's long gone. But I mean, you know, this whole camper shell is part of the truck. It's been on there as long as I can remember. So it needs to be, you know, it needs to be put back on there, I think, when the truck's fixed, if it's salvageable. But a little background on American Half-Ass. There used to be an old barn sitting right there, and there was an 83 Camaro, brown one, that's sitting down over the hill a little bit, that had a V6 in it. And man, a bunch of my buddies, Jason Niles, Jason Plummer, Nick Slover, wound up sitting out one day in the barn looking at that old car, and I think it was Niles asked me what I wanted to do with that old car, and I told him my plan was to pull that engine out, put a 350 in it, and start racing. He asked me, why don't we just pull the engine? I told him we ain't got a cherry picker. So he's like, well, I wonder if there's anything we can use to pull the engine. So, as you can see, we didn't have any lack of chains, and we also had these screw-type binders, which at the time, they weren't rusted as bad. So we wound up using the center beam in the barn, the chain, and 4 of the screw-type binders, 2 on each side, to hoist the engine out of the car. And as we're sitting there with the engine dangling over the engine compartment, making sure everything's unhooked so that we could roll the car out of the way before we set the engine back down, so that we could get to it with the tractor and boom. The reason we didn't use the boom to lift it was because the hydraulics on the tractor weren't the best in the world, and none of us wanted to be underneath it in case something happened. But as we're sitting there with the engine dangling from 4 screw-type binders and a chain from the main beam of the barn, Jason Plummer looks around and says something about, we ought to start our own little car show, because it was at the time when American Choppers and American Hot Rod was popular and on TV. And he said we ought to call it American Half-Ass. And then he started launching into, on this episode of American Half-Ass. So it was actually Jason Plummer's idea to do the whole American Half-Ass bit. So there you have it. That's how American Half-Ass got its name. I'd been talking a long time, even before that, about starting to do a little racing and everything, and calling my little racing team C-Mac Racing, because I always went by Cliff when I was younger. So Dad always talked about when he was in the military where they called him D-Mac. So a couple guys I used to work with had gotten to call me C-Mac there for a while, so I just figured C-Mac Racing. But then when Jay and I started hanging out and messing around, I'd wound up telling him that little story about Plummer coming up with American Half-Ass, and that was when Roadkill came out with Finnegan and Freiberg, and it kind of blew up from there. We decided that I talked to Jason Plummer to see if he was interested in coming out and doing some filming and stuff like that. He's been busy with his family and work and everything else, so he doesn't show up all that often on these little projects, but he is one of the original founders of American Half-Ass. It was him, me, Jason Niles, and Nick Slover that started it. But when I talked to my cousin Jay about it, he decided, yeah, that was a good idea, you know, we needed to do that. So he's the one that's been out here the most helping me with stuff, because neither him nor I have kids. You know, he has his wife that he's got to take care of, but he doesn't have kids that he's got to deal with. And by deal with, I mean take care of and, you know, watch, make sure they're safe, all that stuff, you know. What you got to do with kids, you know, you got to make sure they're safe. You know, that's one of the reasons that I haven't gotten my nephew out here in the garage yet. He's not even 3 yet. And until he can manage to, you know, stay out of getting into stuff that could wind up hurting him, I don't want to get him out here and risk getting him hurt. But yeah, it's definitely something that I'm gonna want to do, you know. My father and I never really got into working on stuff. Usually the only time we worked on stuff was working on his old big truck, just so we can get it back on the road so he can make some more money. Usually by the time he got home, he was too tired to really do anything. I was hoping that me and Dad would have been able to work on Grandpa's old truck and get it back together, but that never happened. And shortly before he died, I told him that I was going to do my best to get it restored, or at least, you know, decent enough to get it back on the road and looking halfway decent to where he'd be proud of it, and where Grandpa would be proud of it. So that's the plan for that old truck. Yeah, I mean, it's not in the best of shape, but it's in better shape than the Latonia Blacktop Jeep. So that Latonia Blacktop Jeep probably going to wind up just being a parts truck, because got a few other Jeeps here that need some parts. So I think I can use the parts from it to get some of the other projects I got going. And I mean, who knows, if the frame's decent, maybe I could do a little custom job. Because if this is any indication, I need a tow truck. So I don't know, maybe we'll see about using Grandpa's old Jeep, or maybe the old RV, you know, build a little car hauler tow vehicle with it. Of course, you know, I'm in the financial status of more sense than money, I guess. Come up with a lot of ideas that I'd like to do and see get made, but don't really have the money to make it happen. So if anybody would like to contribute to American Half-Ass, you know, you're more than welcome to. You know, we'll take cash. We'll even take parts. You know, it's if you got parts that'll work on one of the vehicles we're working on, feel free to donate them. So at this point, I think I've done enough for the day, so I'm gonna go find me a cold drink, sit down and chill for a little while. So just wanted to kind of give y'all a little bit of a video, because I know it's been a while since we've posted anything, but that's not entirely my fault. I had a bit of a computer issue, and well, one of the computers that I'm using for, you know, family videos and stuff that I've pulled off VHS, and at this point I'm to the point where I'm out of hard drive. So I'm waiting on more hard drive, on another hard drive that I ordered to show up, so that I can continue editing those videos and try to get all the family videos together and stuff. And then I'll then be able to start doing some of the video editing for this type of stuff on that, where I've been using my GoPro, because I had some video of working on a 66 that I need to use that laptop for, because the laptop I was using had a little bit of a technical issue. I tried using a MacBook Pro. I've been using that for a while, and I don't know what happened to it, and I'm not much of a MacBook nut, so I don't know a whole heck of a lot about them. So it's one of them things that I'm just gonna have to wait and see what happens, see if I can get that MacBook fixed, or get, you know, some more hard drive space so I can work on editing it on a different computer. I've got an old laptop that I was going to try, but I've got Linux on it, because, you know, I'm trying to learn Linux too. It's the Ubuntu or Ubuntu Linux, and it doesn't seem to want to recognize the GoPro, doesn't seem to want to recognize the video format that the GoPros use, so I'm not able to pull the video off of the GoPro at this point in time. So until I can get my Windows laptop working, or well, until I can get the MacBook working, or get enough hard drive space on my Windows laptop using an external hard drive to move stuff around, I won't be able to do any editing of that video. So I've decided to use my handheld video camera and see if I can do the editing with this, because I think this is the same format that Ubuntu Linux can use. So if that's the case, this video should be able to get uploaded when I get done editing it and trying to make it look a little bit better than a 3-hour long inch by inch move of a 1972 Chevrolet truck. And if I can get it uploaded, or if I can get it edited and uploaded and decent, then I'll be dropping it on Facebook so that everybody can check it out. And with any luck, you'll all be able to see it. So until next time, I'm going to sign off, and I'll eventually get this video uploaded. Hopefully I can get it done soon. It is November 9th, 2019, as I'm making this video. My watch says 2:54, so 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So maybe I can get it uploaded today or tomorrow, tonight, tomorrow, whatever. So we'll just see what happens. So, you know, again, I know it's been a while since I've uploaded a video. I'm sorry. I know a lot of you guys and gals like to see the videos that I upload. Probably for the same reason that I like watching Roadkill, just to see what goofy stuff they're coming up with next. So hopefully I'll be able to get this uploaded and we'll have some decent video that y'all can watch and enjoy. And, you know, I'd kind of like to build American Half-Ass up a little bit, kind of like Roadkill and stuff like that, where, you know, get some followers and maybe get YouTube or something to start giving us a little money. That'd be ideal, make some money for doing some of this goofy crap. That's right. Well, until next time, y'all take her easy and be safe.